A 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go over the most common jazz blues progression that jazz players use when they get together, want to relax, and just play the blues. Now, we only need two chord shapes to play the jazz blues, the 9 chord and the 13 chord. Now, if you already know those chords and don't want to hear me talk about them, then whoop, just skip to the next part in the lesson. Let's start out by taking a look at the chord shapes that we're going to use to play our jazz blues with. Now, if you've got my Gateway to Jazz guitar book, then you'll recognize the two chord shapes that I'm going to use here. It's the middle chord that we use in both the patterns that we learn in that book. I'm playing a 13 chord like this, which is the normal way to make it with the root on the bottom. So I'm on fret 5, and it looks just like that. I'm not playing this string. This string gets naturally muted by the index finger laying on top of it. It doesn't play. And then these three look like that. And I don't play the bottom string. The bottom can get muted also by your little finger, or you can keep your finger on it like this if you want to play it like that. So you can strum it, or in my case, I like to pluck the strings a lot when I'm on a nylon. I meet a lot of rock players who are used to making a 13 by having their finger on this string up here. So you can actually play all the strings if you want. Sometimes just work on playing it this way and try to play it with just the 4 notes. And the other hand position is for the 9 chord, typical 9 chord position in jazz. I find a lot of rock and blues players already play a 9 chord, a jazz 9 chord, but they might not really think of it as a jazz chord. It fits pretty well with the blues. So like up here on fret 5, you've got the D9 like this. And so that's this position you may or may not be familiar with. It's these two fingers here on frets 4 and 5, and then we put these two down here on fret 5, so it looks like that. I've met some rock players who say, no, you don't make a D9 like this, you make it like this. You're going to put your hand up here, and then you're going to flatten out your whole finger like this. So if you want to do that, okay, but I'm going to still recommend to go for a 4-note chord if you can, like this. Or if you want to flatten your finger out there, that's cool. You know, this note is actually not in the chord anywhere else, and it fits very nicely. So just want to mention that. Before we take a look at our jazz blues progression, let's first play regular 3-chord rock blues, but instead of playing the 7th chords as usual, let's use our jazz 9 and 13 chords in their place. And listen to the jazz sound that gets created. Here's a chart for the 12-bar blues, just like you would play with a rock band. The difference is that we're using 13th chords and 9th chords instead of 7th chords. I'll take our 9 and 13 jazz chords and use them when I sing a familiar old rock blues tune. And listen what it does. It gives it a real jazz flavor. Now, I'm not going to say this will work with every old rock song that you know, but you can give it a try sometimes and see if you like the sound of it. If it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And you can actually go back and forth. You can play familiar blues tunes, as you always do, but then slip in one chorus using these 9 and 13 chords, just to give it kind of a lift. I'm in the key of A still, and I'm going to give it a rhythm like this. Now I'm pulling on my strings, but you can, whatever you like to do, strum. Elvis Presley, Hound Dog. A 1, 2, 3, 4. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, a barking all the time. Ain't nothing but a hound dog, a barking all the time. You ain't never caught a rabbit, and you ain't no friend of mine. You can use all of your blues scales that you're used to playing. Just go ahead and play right over these 13s and 9s and see how it sounds. Should sound terrific. Now I'll show you what I call the most common jazz blues progression that jazz players use when they get together to play. When I'm traveling around and I meet some new players and I sit in and they say, let's play the blues. You know, what key? Okay, well, we got the key settled. This is what I expect to hear when I sit in and play. I'll be in the key of A. A 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to play it for you again. I'll sing the first chorus to Hound Dog. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, a barking all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, a barking all the time. You ain't never caught a rabbit and you ain't no friend of mine. What I just played uses a lot of jazz substitutions in the jazz blues progression. But no need to even think about it. I'm not going to digress into what that jazz theory is about and where all these substitutions come from and what they are. All I want to do is show you what the common jazz blues progression is. You can just get your hands on it, play it, and have a lot of fun with the jazz blues sound. Now, if you already play 3-chord blues, then you already know half of the 12-bar jazz blues progression because the first 6 bars are exactly the same, except I'm using 9s and 13 chords, but still I'm just going from an A chord to a D chord for the first 2 bars, then back here on bars 3 and bar 4, just using the A chord, and now I'm going to the D chord for bars 5 and 6, just like the regular blues. And now we come to bar 7. This is where we start to see a little action with the different chord changes. So we'll start up here on fret 5 with our A chord, and I'm going to just walk it down. Same hand position, walking right down to fret 2. So okay, so this just covered the space of 2 bars. We're on bar 7, so it goes bar 7, 2, 3, 4, bar 8, 2, 3, 4. And here's what it looks like on paper. Starting at bar 7, we've started at the A13 for 2 beats, went down 1 fret to A flat 13, back 1 more fret for G13, 2 beats, 1 more fret, F sharp 13 for 2 beats. So what we're really doing here at bar 7 and 8 is connecting this A13 to this F sharp 13. We're sliding back 1 fret at a time until we arrive here where we want to be on the F sharp 13. So this area here is what I refer to as the walk down, because we're walking back 1 fret, walking down 1 fret at a time until we arrive at our destination. Now that takes us up to bars 9 and 10. And here we're going to use B9, playing 1 bar of B9, 4 counts. And that's just the same hand positions we had up here on D. We're just using 2 hand positions. So 4 counts on bar 9. Bar 10, I'm going to the 5 chord that looks like this. And you'll see I'm not playing the A string. That gets left out. I'm just, I'm pulling the strings here like that. Also, you don't have to play a 13 position. You can swap and use a 9 chord position up here on fret 7. These two just swap out for each other. So if you'd rather not play it there or just alternate, then you can play E9 up here. Same hand position as the D and the B. We're just using the 2 positions. You can see bars 9 and 10 written out here on our chart. Bar 9 is the B9 and bar 10 is the E13. We got past our walk down bars 7 and 8 and headed right over here to bars 9 and 10. Let's take a look at bars 11 and 12, our turnaround. Now, just like in your regular 3-chord blues, you've got your turnaround at bars 11 and 12. Well, here's what we do with the jazz turnaround. The turnaround we're using here with the substitution, it just looks like this. We start on the A chord for the first hit at bar 11, and then we go up 3 frets up here. So we're going from the 5th fret up to the 8th fret, just like that. And then we're going to walk it down twice, and then start the progression over here to go another time through. Here's what it looks like written down. We're at bars 11 and 12, starting with our A13 on fret 5. Then we jump up to fret 8 to arrive at the C13 and coming down 1 fret at a time to B13 and finally B flat 13 on fret 6. So starting at bar 11, it looks like this: 2, 3, bar 11, 2, 3, 4, bar 12, 2, 3, 4. Then the progression starts over. So pretty simple. I talk about substitutions, and people go, ooh, substitution's going to be difficult. It's not difficult at all. If you look at it like this, it's pretty darn easy. You're just coming up and walking down. Pretty simple. It's nice to understand why these are substitutions, but you don't have to. You can just start playing, jump in and play. Later we'll talk about the why and how it happens. Okay, I'll go through it all once more and keep the tempo nice and slow and just follow along, play along with me. And if you want to, when you start to get this thing, you can start playing your blues licks in back of it too. Just use all your normal blues licks. Don't worry for now about changing scales or the chords that are under your blues licks. Just play along as normal. But right now, just keep your hands where my hands are, and we'll just walk through it kind of slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, bar 1, going to bar 2, here we go to bar 3, and bar 4, 2, 3, bar 5, 2, 3, bar 6, here we come on the walk down, bar 7, 2, 3, bar 8, 2, 3, bar 9 on the B chord, bar 10 on the E13, there we go for the turnaround, bar 11, bar 12, and there's the whole thing. I'll play it again at that tempo and give you another common set of lyrics here. I'll play the Hound Dog again, just so it kind of keeps you on track for how the 12-bar feeling works as you're going through the progression. And yeah, I'll just play it again. You can play along or play blues licks over the top of it, whatever you want to try. So I go like this: 2, 3, 4, 1. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, barking all the time. Bar 3, bar 4. Nothing but a hound dog. Bar 6, here comes the walk down. Barking all the time. You ain't never caught a rabbit. You ain't no friend of mine. Turn around. Said you was high class. Well, that was just a line. Now they said you was high class. Yeah, that was just a line. You ain't never been high class. You ain't no friend of mine. Now, as I said at the beginning of the lesson, this is what I call the most common jazz blues progression that jazz players play. I've played jazz for over 40 years, and I've sat in with a lot of players in a lot of different countries, a lot of different places. And when I get up on stage to play, and somebody says, well, let's play the blues, we don't have to talk about what the progression's going to be. This is what I expect to hear. Pretty much. There's some slight variation, but not much of a variation. So what can you do with this jazz blues progression that we just walked through? What's it mean to you? What can you do with it? So you get your hands on it and you go, okay, so that's the jazz blues. I got it. What am I going to do? Well, the first thing you can do is, if you're playing blues at all, is try to plug it in to the blues that you're playing at this point. Anything you play, anything you've written, just try these changes behind it and see how it sounds. And it really is a matter of trial and error. A lot of things will sound just terrific with the jazz blues changes and freshen things up and give you some new ideas to work off of. And some you'll try and you go, yeah, I don't like the way it sounds. So you stick with your 3-chord blues in contrast. Something else you can do that's creative and interesting is play your regular 3-chord blues in some song that you're used to playing, and then one time through play the jazz blues progression, and it will enliven it up and open up your ears just for that one time through the 12-bar cycle. And now let me give my book a little sales pitch here. I've got a book that I created just for rock and folk players who want to understand about the jazz blues. And I explain this progression in more detail, but also I go into the progressions that don't use the jazz blues substitutions and explain more about what these substitutions are and where they get used in the progression. Then you have a choice to draw from the regular progressions that don't have the substitutions, or this progression here that uses a lot of substitutions, and you can mix and match them in different places and get a lot of variety in your blues playing. I demonstrated everything here in the key of A. If you get the book and the full video lesson, then I'll show you how you can play the same progression in different keys. You have to kind of swap the 9 and 13 in different places to make the progression work.